I was just over 20 years old when I started selling cars, and I didn't know anything because the 5-minute coach didn't exist back then. Come to think of it, neither did the internet. Anyway, my sales manager did all the training for our new sales class all by himself. Bob was not only one of my favorite managers of all time, but he was also a really good trainer. He made sure we understood what to say and do, so we were quickly comfortable working with customers in the real world. Of course, we had scripts to follow, but there was no guarantee that customers would follow our lead. Apparently, they didn't have the same scripts we did. In this segment, we're going to talk about your telephone customers who not only try to take you off your phone scripts, but they also may have an occasional objection. If that sounds like some of your callers, then stick around. I'm Jon Quade, the 5-minute coach. We've written the inbound sales call scripts to avoid caller objections as much as possible. But because every customer is different and because some are inherently suspect of sales consultants and dealerships, you're going to have to be prepared for those times when they try to steer phone calls in their direction rather than yours. That said, let's make 3 high-level points before we dive in to the actual objections. First, don't make them mad. This should go without saying. If you make somebody angry on the telephone, what do you think are your chances of seeing them? Answer, 0. Unless you really light them up and they just come to your store to open up a can of whoop ass. So don't make them mad. If you have to call them back with information or have a manager call them back or whatever, do it. Avoid making them angry. Next, remain professional. Now, this can be difficult when somebody is angry or rude or just unreasonable on the phone, but it's crucial for you to maintain your poise and seek a solution that satisfies the caller. When customers are rude, I've heard people say, "Oh, don't take it personally. It's just business." That, my friends, is a load of crap. Seriously, if you are really good at deflecting abuse from people, you're getting way too much practice. Just do your best to keep it all together. Then number 3, use empathy statements. Empathy statements are those that let their caller know you care about their concerns. I generally rotate a couple in, "I understand," or "I can appreciate that." But anything similar is just fine. "Hey, I know where you're coming from," or "I get your point," or "I'm so sorry that happened." Anything that shows your empathy for them. Okay, now let's talk specifics. And for this, just download the objection handling script that's linked to this course. Just like the phone scripts, the beauty is that your phone customers will never know if you have it in front of you while you're on the phone as long as you've practiced it. They're never going to say, hey, go back to number 4. To avoid sounding like a robot, though, again, practice over and again. Unless the customer throws you off somehow, then the more you practice it, the better you'll become at taking calls and, of course, at handling objections. Here's the first one. "I'll just call you back." Now, of course, caller ID mostly eliminates this, but not always. If you hear this objection, it's usually because you asked for the caller's name too early in the call, before you've earned the right to ask for it. That's why "Hi, this is John. Who do I have the pleasure of speaking with?" is not a statistically good option for answering the phone, like some trainers will tell you. It also produces more fake names than you might think. In the end, I'd much prefer the customer volunteers his or her name anyway, and that usually results from a friendly introduction by you. So if the customer says, "I'll just call you back," follow it up with, "No worries, I understand," and then continue asking questions about what's important to the customer. "Hey, so I don't waste your time and invite you to come in based on something you're not interested in, may I just ask you a couple of quick questions?" Then get back into your phone script questions and attempt to gain the caller's name and an appointment before you finish. But regardless, I'd rather have an appointment without a phone number than no appointment at all. And who knows, you might be able to secure the number by offering to text them an appointment confirmation, which is number 9 on the phone scripts. How much do those go for? That might be your next one. Or any number of variations to that, like what's your best price? Or what are the payments run on that? Or what sort of discounts are you giving on those? If you hear that early in the conversation, here's the appropriate response. I'll be happy to check on that for you. And then just follow it up with the informational questions at the beginning of your phone scripts. How familiar are you with those vehicles? Or do you prefer lighter or darker colors? Or are you open on that? By the way, in case you think color isn't an important differentiator for shoppers, it is far and away the number one filter that customers populate when they search online. If the price question comes later, after you've identified the caller's name and phone number, your response should sound like this. Well, as you probably know, the final price or payment depends on the exact vehicle you select and how it's equipped, but I'll have all that information ready for you when you get here. What's a good time for us to get together? Later today, or would sometime tomorrow be better for you? It's really just a modified version of number 8 on the phone scripts. Here's the next one. I'm not sure when we can make it in. Have you heard that before? This is almost always after you have a name and number, but you haven't yet set a specific appointment. Here the caller may be trying to put it off to avoid a commitment, or because he or she has never been asked to set an appointment with a dealership in the past. Here's what we say. Susan, I don't mind waiting for you, but I sure don't want you to have to wait for me. Let's set a tentative time. How about 3 p.m. tomorrow? And if something comes up that you can't make it, just call me and I'll be happy to reschedule. Okay? It's a nice way to encourage customers to set the appointment for their benefit, not yours. I want to encourage you to follow the phone scripts as closely as you can. If you do, you'll avoid a lot of the objections that might have surfaced otherwise, and that comes from following the basic structure of the conversation. Greeting enthusiastically, asking relevant questions, gathering information, and setting a specific appointment. You're leading the conversation instead of following the customer. And that's it for this episode of the 5-Minute Coach. I'm Jon Quade.